Welcome to Brazen Education with Educator Barnes, a podcast with a focus on speaking your truth, being transparent to help others, and having no shame about it. Because we can't move forward until the truth is known. Hey, it's Educator Barnes here, and on this episode of Brazen Education, I'm going to talk about transitioning from teacher to administrator. Yesterday was my first day as a school administrator, and if you would have talked to me probably like 2 weeks ago, I would have told you I was going back to my previous school. 2 school years ago, I obtained my school admin license, and immediately upon getting that license, I was offered an assistant principal's job, which I ended up turning down. And so from that point, I thought to myself, I have this license. What do I want to do with this license and when? Because a lot of time when people think about school administration, the two things that typically pops in their mind is assistant principal, and then some people are even trying to go further than that. But I didn't get into teaching to go into administration. My second year in the classroom, I had a principal say to me, "I think you'll be a school leader one day." And I laughed. And then I tried to take it back because, it was like this awkward moment because someone's like seeing something in me and, saying that I see you have this potential. And I was just like, I'm a second year teacher trying to keep it together day to day. So I can't see me how you see me. So I brushed it off. But throughout my career, even though I tried to actively avoid it, I found myself being seen as a leader or being put in leadership positions. You know how it is in education. Sometimes you get voluntold to do things. So I found myself being voluntold a lot. But through those processes, I was able to start to see myself the way other people saw me. And then I had an opportunity to apply to an admin program. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to apply to it. And there were 3 things you had to do to get into this program because it was a partnership between the school district I was employed in at the time and a university. So at the school district level, you had to do this application that has some essay components. If you got past that round, you had an interview with district level administration. And if you got past that round, you had some tasks to do for the university. Tasks that are confidential. I can't even actually speak about it because we had to agree not to share, which I understand because if you're trying to get certain type of candidates in, you don't want people getting in because they had someone else complete tasks or help them with what we had to do. So despite all of that, I actually got in, and I was really shocked about it. I wasn't expecting to get in because I just didn't know if I had what it took. So I took a year. I already had my master's, so I didn't have to do the master's and pick up the license. I just had to do the year of classes to pick up the license, and I added it to my license. And then I'm like, when? So I wasn't expecting to be immediately offered an assistant principal's job. I did start interviewing for admin roles just to kind of get my feet wet to see what those interviews were like. Typically, if I interview for a teaching role, most of the time I've been offered the job. So I know that I can interview well for a teaching position, a coaching role, but for an administrative role, I wasn't for sure. And I did interview with quite a few, and I had only, I was offered one, and then a school reached out to me, but it was like in the middle of the school year, so I just didn't really follow through with it. But I have a strong belief because they had reached out to me directly in the middle of the school year that they were potentially going to make an offer. So when that all came up, I eventually ended up saying no because I'm married to an administrator. My husband is not a school administrator, but he is an administrator in his job. He is a technology administrator, so he oversees a team of people. He has a very demanding job. he has odd hours because he works on the databases for the state of Indiana. And you can't necessarily work on those databases during the day sometimes. So sometimes he's working at 1 o'clock in the morning, doing like a 5-hour shift. Sometimes it's like a round the clock thing because it's a serious situation. And when I offered this job and I was talking to my husband, I'm like, I don't know how we can make this work. And then at the same time, our kids weren't making the best choices in school. So we were at our children's school quite a bit. And so I'm like, how can I step into this role, do it well, deal with my children, not bringing them their best selves to school, and then working with my husband's schedule. And my husband had just recently got promoted to the role of being the team lead and like overseeing these people. So he was already a database administrator, but then he became the lead database administrator where he was overseeing this team, which changed. So, for example, just being a senior database administrator, you have to be on call. I think it's like once every 6 to 8 weeks. But when you are the lead over everyone on the team, you're always on call. So you have that chain of command where you have the on-call person, but if they don't pick it up or something goes wrong, it gets kicked to my husband. So kind of like how my husband explained, he said, previously the buck stopped with someone else. He said now like the buck kind of stops with me because it's my responsibility to make sure that if the on-call person can get it, I'm picking it up. So that means we are on vacation and he gets called sometimes. And so thinking about these things and thinking about our kids and like little things like if you have to work late and I have to work late, who gets our boys? And so there was like all these things that we hadn't figured out yet. And I had so much anxiety and stress just about those little things. I just said, no, not now. And then that particular school year, my position went away. So I went to a previous district where I was at last school year and I took a librarian's role, which allowed me to use my 4th teaching license. I have 4. I have a 512 English language arts. So most of my career I've been a middle school or a high school English teacher. Then I transitioned to an English as a new language teacher. So that I transitioned from secondary down to elementary. Did that for a little bit. And then I was a literacy coach for 3 years in both the elementary and the high school level. And then I was an elementary librarian. So I have licenses in all those areas. And last year was tough because a lot of people did not support my decision to be an elementary librarian. One person said it was beneath me. I really enjoyed what I was doing. Like I really enjoyed the job. Not so much the school, but I did enjoy what I was doing because that job gave me the opportunity to do something I hadn't done in 4 school years. And that was teach all day because I was an E&L teacher and then I was a literacy coach. So the last year I was a literacy coach, I did teach half of the day. So I had 3 classes. And then I had 3 blocks where I didn't have classes where I was coaching and working with teachers. But last school year, I got to work with students K through 6, and I had to teach all day. And when you get removed from the classroom, you miss that. And then you sometimes just miss the struggle of, oh, man, this lesson didn't go right. Okay, I need to rethink this. So I appreciate the fact before I took this administrative role, I had the opportunity to teach all day. So it was recent and it's on my mind. Not that I think that not being in the classroom means you can't just step back into it and teach. But when you're not in the classroom and you're doing tasks like helping teachers pull in resources, it's different. And I absolutely love books and reading. I am an avid reader. My students will tell you this. And the notes I got from students last school year, I have them with me. I plan to put them. I keep a folder of notes. And a child wrote to me that said, she said something like, and I posted on my Twitter account and my Instagram, I believe. She says, I'm not the reading type, but you are the reason I started to read. And so for me, even though people are like that job was beneath you, I know for a fact that there were students that hated reading, they didn't like reading. And because I was their librarian, I helped them find books to read. That was something I was very good at as an English teacher. I have a reference letter that actually states that on average, students in my English classes independently read and passed quizzes at a proficient rate over these books, that they were the average of about 35 books and pass quizzes on those books independently. And you can't get kids, middle school kids who many times are grade levels behind, to read an average of 35 books if you don't have a passion for literature, you don't have a passion for reading, and you don't have a passion for figuring out what book or what type of books work for children. So I'm good at that. I know I'm good at that. And I enjoy just like when I found that book or I found what the kid was interested in, the feeling I had was just awesome. So I do not regret taking the role I had last year, because now stepping into this administrative role as a middle school dean, I have a lot of different experiences. I've been a classroom teacher, so I know what that's like. I've been a teacher who has supported other teachers. So because I was a English as a new learner teacher, I had an opportunity to write ILPs, an individual learning plan, which has some similarities to your IEP. So I know what those meetings are like. And then I was in IEP meetings because some students have more than one type of accommodation. They may have an ILP and an IEP. So I had experience with that. And then experience was coaching, leading, shaping teachers, helping them improve their practice. I have time spent doing that. And then being a librarian, being seen as a specialist or elective teacher, that gave me some perspective that I didn't have. There was just little things that I just didn't realize because I had never been in that type of role and what that looks like. And so all those experiences I believe will help me be a good administrator. And so my current role, I am a middle school dean serving grades 5 through 8. And this is an academic dean role because there's different types of deans. You have dean of students, you have dean of academics, and I'm more of a dean of academics. In my particular role, I'll be supporting all middle school English teachers, all middle school social studies teachers, and then the art teacher. So having that role where I've been in a special area, knowing what that looks like, knowing how that's different than what a classroom teacher does, who has the kids, every day or every other day, I have some insight that I probably would not have had, and I might not even have been as successful working with the art teacher, who I had the opportunity to meet with today and chat with quite a bit, and I'm pretty excited about working with her. So 13 years as a teacher, and year 14 stepping into administration. So I'm super excited about it. I don't know, how it all's going to turn out. My stomach kind of felt like it felt on Monday, August the 7th, 2006. That was my first day being in the classroom. And if you're like, how the hell does she know that date? Well, I actually got married on that Saturday on August the 5th. So 2 days later, I started my first teaching job. That's the only reason I actually know what the actual date is. But I felt that same way. I felt a mix of excitement and joy and nervousness and nervousness, because when you're doing something new, you're taking a risk. Like, I know that I'm a good teacher. I know I'm an effective teacher. I know I can get a teaching job. I know I can do that, and I know I can do it well. Like, there's no question in my mind. I don't have doubts about that. What I don't know right now is, can I be a good administrator? Will I turn into the administrators, honestly, that I've written about? Because most of you know, I'm most known for writing the article, Teachers Quit Principals, Not Schools. And there's other articles I've written. I think I can't sometimes. So sometimes I don't remember my article titles exactly. So it's so funny because people come up to me in public now and I was like, oh, I read such and such. And sometimes my articles get retitled. So I wrote an article, something about the case of the missing principal. The principal is pretty much unavailable. I've talked about toxic cultures because of the principal, how they lead. And so now walking into this role is like, I'm being mindful of, I don't want to become the person that I've been so critical of. And then the second thing I think about, so you have two types of principals. You have the type of principals that were talented teachers, have been in the classroom. For me, I feel like to even step into leadership, you should teach for 5 years. And I know some people are going to get an attitude about that, but I I just don't like it when people transition from teaching to leadership and they've only been teaching for a couple of years. That happens a lot, and I just don't think that's a good practice. I think you really need to be in the classroom for at least 5 years before you make that jump. So there's two type of people that, end up in administration. You have the ones that are good teachers. Everybody knew they were a good teacher. People looked up to them. They were seen as leaders. They were helping other people. And then you have those people that it just seems like, there's some nepotism going on. So they got the job because of family or, other connections or just charisma. Interestingly enough, when I was in church on Sunday, the sermon was titled, it was like how to accept a promotion. So I was like, oh my gosh, like sometimes you be in church, like they talking right to me. I'm like, dang, this message is timely. But my pastor, he talked about how pretty much charisma only takes you so far, that your character, like your skill, that's what's going to get you, help you be successful. So if we put to the side the people that just get the job and they shouldn't have gotten the job, and we focus on the people who were good teachers and then they turn into bad administrators, that's the thing I'm thinking about, because I know I'm a good teacher. So I'm like, what happened? And I don't want to fall into those pitfalls, because even like today, like day one, I was like, whoa, because, my principal kept saying, if you have a question about this, go to your direct supervisor. So I'm like, oh, that's they're talking about me. So people kept asking me all these questions, and I kind of got a little overwhelmed because, unlike my other counterparts, there's 3 other deans, I was the most recently hired. So I haven't been able to get, learn everything that other people have learned. And my principal is super supportive. But I was like, oh my gosh, I got to find answers to all this stuff. And so when I left today, I had like 4 pages of notes just to go through and just to figure out and get answers to things. So right now, out of my 4 pages of notes, I'm down to about 6 tasks that I have left to do. So I was like, whew, but I already know day 2, I'm going to have some more things that's going to get added to the list. But I've already set up my notebook for day 2 to be a little bit more organized than I was on day 1, because I wasn't prepared to, because I had like stuff I wanted to ask, and I was taking down notes that what other people were asking. I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. I got to get a better system in place. So I don't know how this is going to turn out. It's a journey, but I am a risk taker is actually one of the tenets I have in my classroom. I've had it for years. One of the things I have in my classroom is be a risk taker and participate. I want kids to be active in their education. It's like, I already got mine. I need you to be active and get yours. And so if you want to get something in this life, you have to take a risk. And so I'm taking a risk. I'm stepping out there. I'm doing something that people have said you can do. We have seen the skills. You possess these skills. You can go do this work. And so I'm just trying to live up to this expectation that people have for me and do it well. Because at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about the teachers I'm serving. And I should almost coach myself out of a job, essentially, because I'm going to make these teachers so great that I'm almost not needed. And so that's what I'm keeping in the forefront of my mind. It's just, how can I support you? How can I serve you so you can serve these kids? And so I'm hoping, as I've now moved up, as you say, the next rung on this ladder, that I'm still being effective with kids, because at the end of the day, that's why we're all in this work. We want our kids to be successful so they can be successful citizens, so we can have a great society, because these children are our future. And I don't want to be a person as a link in this chain that is messing things up for kids because I'm not being effective how I am. So just wanted to share that news. Just want to share my thoughts about how I'm feeling right now. And throughout my podcast, I'll probably touch base just about how it's going. I've already decided to do some journaling each day, just to write down how I'm feeling, what's happening, just for myself. Because I am in school administration, what you'll probably notice across my podcast or my articles that I write, I will not be writing about my day to day. Typically, a lot of people are very used to me writing about like something like very like at my school. Like, I'll give you an example. I did something with Raising in the Sun, so I was very detailed about what we did, how the students were involved. When the students did a walkout, around what happened what happened in Florida with the school shooting. I talked about that. Last year, I talked about my opinions about battles of the book. But because I am supervising and evaluating teachers, I want to be cognizant and mindful of the fact that I don't want anyone to feel that I am targeting them when I'm writing. So I will be talking about this journey, but you'll hear really bit more about me and my it'll be all of my feelings, how I'm feeling about it, not so much about the details. So you will see my writing shift a little bit, just because I don't want someone not to be able to feel like they can trust me or feel supported by me because of what I do. And I went into my job addressing this up front because I didn't want anyone to be like, dang, man, she gonna go just write about me. I can't do nothing right. And honestly, some people feel like I'm writing about them, which is hilarious because some of the people that all of their feelings think I'm writing about them, I've never written a thing about them. It's like, to be very honest, it's like you're not important enough to be a blip on my radar to feel like writing about you. So that's kind of more of a you thing than a me thing. And I just never know what to say when people will be all like accusatory and be like, that's all about me. I'm like, actually, no, it wasn't about you. But since you all up in your feelings about it right now, maybe there's something in there that struck a nerve and maybe you need to do some self-reflection. So that's what I really be thinking. I typically don't say that. I'm just like, no, it wasn't about you. I don't understand why you think it is, and kind of try to wrap up the conversation, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to lie. If I did write something and you feel like it's about you and it was, I'm going to be like, yeah, it was about you. But I try not to do those things. I try to be very general, especially when I'm talking about different experiences I had. And what's funny, I did write about a teacher one time. It was a positive situation. And I sent her the article because I wanted her to know. And she's like, I read that and I had no clue you was talking about me. So sometimes I'm like, you have to know it's you. And a lot of times I do, like I wrote a piece about my son's teacher that they had last year, who is super awesome. Let me tell you, side note, I know this is a tangent. Let me tell you how awesome this lady is. Over summer break, she did a play date at a local park. So the class could come back together and just kind of touch base, and the parents could come back together and touch base. And my sons were super excited because they kept asking when they want to go back to school. It wasn't about school. It was about seeing their friends because they hadn't seen their friends in a while. And then she brought, she had water, she had popsicles. I'm like, man, play date. And she brought treats for the children. And it was just so nice. And so that's just the type of teacher she was. So in that particular one, I did address her by name, but a lot of times when I'm talking about equity, I'm talking about different issues, I'm talking about school discipline, I'm talking about literacy. Like I wrote a piece about parents being more involved in literacy. It was like a general piece, and someone thought it was about them. I'm like, no, it wasn't about like any one person. I was just saying generally that parents have to get more involved. It's not about you. But because I've had those experiences where people are making assumptions that I'm writing about them, I'm going to be mindful about that moving forward, about what I say and what I don't say, because I don't want that to be a stumbling block in someone's growth or their potential, or my potential to help them because they feel like that. And so I actually addressed that up front with our school leadership, and I will be addressing that with my team later this week. Some people know about what I do on the side. Some people don't know. Some people care, and some people honestly don't care. But I'm always a straightforward type of person. I like to address things before it becomes the issue, so we don't have any problems. So that's what I have for you this time. And to all of you that have reached out to me to say congratulations, to encourage me, Those who have offered to be a thought partner because you are in administration, I appreciate all of that, because none of us can do what we do without that support, that community, and that encouragement. So I encourage you thank you for encouraging me, but also go out and encourage someone else, because that little word of encouragement can make someone's day and make them believe that they can do what they're trying to do. So I will chat with you guys soon.